what have we been told about peak performance? It's something that we must train and practice and work for years on end. It's something we're competing with everyone else for. It's something we must force with will and resilience and grit. It's achieved by preparing perfectly. It's achieved by working as hard as you can. It's achieved by battling with and overcoming the mind. It's all about getting into the zone. But let me ask you something. Does that work? Now, I'm not interested in the scientific studies or what the sports psychology experts will say or what has been written in books. All I'm asking is, does it actually work? I mean, how often do people actually get into the zone? Only the best of the best seem to be able to do it, and even they only experience a very small majority of the time in the zone. Why is that? Well, because it's hard, it takes work, it takes overcoming the mind. Does it? The main symptom of the zone, correctly known as the key to peak performance, is losing our sense of self. So what do we do with that information? We fight the mind, we learn techniques and tricks and tactics and strategies to overcome the mind, to control the mind, to force ourselves to be focused on our awareness on the present moment in order to fool ourselves into thinking that we're actually in the zone. But that doesn't work. Clearly, I mean, if we're only in the zone less than 1% of the time, it clearly doesn't work. The truth comes in understanding where our sense of self comes from. It comes from the mind. Specifically, it comes from the prefrontal cortex, the conscious mind, where all our thoughts and opinions and beliefs occur. And most importantly, where our sense of self is developed and maintained. We know by now that not everything we do on a sporting field is conscious. By a certain stage in our skill level, it becomes unconscious, similar to brushing our teeth. Yet, we still think about our skills and our execution, and we hope that we get it right, even when we know already how to do them. And we do it all the time. We're constantly analysing and thinking and preparing and focusing and so-called fine-tuning, all consciously. But when was the last time you consciously thought about brushing your teeth? You probably haven't for a very long time, because you just know how to brush your teeth, right? You don't think about doing it wrong or think about your technique or thinking about missing a spot. Try thinking about brushing your teeth and think about your technique the next time that you do it. And you'll see exactly what I mean. You will get in your own way, just like you do in your sport. Why? Because any time that we're thinking and analysing, we're using our prefrontal cortex, our conscious mind. And in that way, we also have our sense of self firmly switched on. Now, what does every tactic and tool and technique and method and sports psychology trick for overcoming the mind have in common? Thinking. You have to think about the thing that you need to do in order to stop thinking. Now, do you see why it doesn't work? Okay, back to the zone. Truth remains when all that is not is removed. If the main symptom of the zone is losing our sense of self, and our conscious mind is the thing that creates that sense of self, and trying to use the mind to overcome the mind doesn't work, then the only thing left to do, and really the only thing that truly works, is to transcend the mind. This is the state of no mind. This is the state of flow. You see, the flow state does not occur when thoughts are controlled and we discipline our mind to be quiet and to focus on the present moment. The flow state occurs when the conscious mind disappears altogether. Our sense of self cannot be turned down or controlled. It can only be disintegrated altogether. See, peak performance has nothing to do with skill acquisition or discipline or resilience or focus or effort or any other sports psychology term that you can think of. Peak performance is about skill access. It's getting out of your own way so you can use the full capacity of the skill that you have already acquired. Peak performance is achieved through understanding. Understanding that the sense of self is the thing that is getting in our way. Understanding that the sense of self comes from the conscious mind. Understanding that we cannot overcome the mind, with the things that we're told to think about to overcome and quiet the mind. And understanding that flow occurs when the mind disappears altogether. So you see, it's not about doing anything. It's not about thinking about anything. It's only about understanding. You achieve a state of no mind when brushing your teeth because you know what you're doing. You don't have to think about your technique. You don't have to believe or hope that you do it right. You just know what to do. Yet, if you're at the level that you're listening to this right now, you have practiced your sport far more than you have practiced brushing your teeth. But do you believe that you can execute your skills, or hope that you can execute your skills? Or do you know that you can? You see, belief is conscious. It's a thought. You have to think about whether you believe something or not. You have to think about whether you believe that you can execute a skill or not. But knowing is unconscious. It's just a feeling. You can access the flow state at any time, for as long as you want. But are you prepared to let go of the conditioning that has forever told you otherwise? Are you prepared to let go of yourself? See, it's not as easy a question as it appears. You have been conditioned your entire life to believe that it takes effort and hard work. But transcending the mind takes no effort at all. So the truth about peak performance is that it's a byproduct. You cannot force it or make yourself perform. You cannot chase it. I'm sure by now you realize this. It's a byproduct of preparation. It's a byproduct of knowing. It's a byproduct of your ability to get out of your own way, to disintegrate the mind altogether and access your full capabilities. It's a byproduct of the state of no mind.